New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. And hello again, dear ones. This is Rev Robert hiding behind the banner here. Welcome aboard, everybody. This is New Thought Today. Happens every Tuesday at 2 p.m. I'm joined by my co-host, Rev Z. How you doing, sir?
Hey, doing well. Enjoying the day and enjoying the Avalanche win of the Stanley Cup a little bit. So just kind of excited about the whole thing, you know.
Go Avs, exactly. It's a good day. It's a good week here in Colorado, folks. And wherever you might be watching from, please do feel free to join the conversation today. We've got a great guest on tap, and we'd love to hear from you as we go throughout our day. And through the next hour, we're going to be talking about not only what's happening in New Thought, but as you know, the past, in just a little over a month or so, Rev Z, you're going to be at the Celebrating Our Soul Conference, Unity Village. And that's a lot about what we're talking about today. So give folks a quick rundown on what's happening.
Yeah. Starting August 11th to the 14th, we will be at Unity Village. Celebrating Our Soul, and it is a conference for everyone, but it's organized, designed, created, and put on by the African American community in New Thought. So we're looking for everyone to come out and feel the love and get some upliftment. We got great keynote speakers, great workshops, programs for kids, and you can't have a conference without music. So we got some great music coming, and quiet as it kept, I'm going for the music, but that's just me.
And folks, that's exactly what we're talking about today is the music. Let us introduce you to John Stringer. He is a life teacher, speaker, a Billboard charting singer, songwriter, a healer, an author, and has a passion for music, community, and the expansion of limitless love and light. He currently serves as the founder of Polyplat Records, partner at Healing Art. He is a partner at Healing Arts Management and the Conscious Songwriting Retreat.com. He co-hosts Awakening Pillow Talk, a podcast. I like the name of that. I can't wait to listen to that one. And is also the host of the Alignment podcast. He's co-founder of MasterMomentMakers.com and a true collaboration leader at BrandingPeopleTogether.com. He's written and recorded several singles and albums over the years, including a co-written Billboard Top 10 hit with his former rock band State of Man. He's spoken and performed for events and venues throughout the world, including international tours of the United States and with the U.S. Armed Forces. His music has been featured in major television network programming, also appeared in national print ads found in magazines like Rolling Stone, Vibe, Spin, and Vanity Fair. Now he's sharing his message of alignment through songs featured on his debut solo album, Limitless Love and Light. Yes, we're going to listen to a little bit of music in just a moment. And that song was featured Posse Award nominated, and he's featured on the Posse Award nominated song That's Love. His follow-up album, Moment to Moment, live, is also available, and through his inspired teachings and his audience, some of which you can learn more about in his book, The Abundance Vibration, A Guide to Enlightenment. John, you're making me work today with all of that.
That's funny. I wish it was a guide to enlightenment. It's actually a guide to alignment.
Alignment. Okay.
Yes. But thank you. That was beautiful, man. I appreciate that.
So welcome aboard. Let people know just a little bit. Where are you in the world? And say hello to the audience, and then we'll get into listening to a little bit of your music.
No, thanks for having me on, and hello, everybody. So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Very excited to be here. Very excited to share with you the ones that I don't know, and just blessed. Living this life, expanding, living the roles I'm given to step into. A month from now, it may be something new. I never know, but I say yes and keep moving. So hopefully, whatever you hear today, you'll hear something from us that inspires you to do the same.
Amen.
Beautiful. All right, folks. So let's get right on into it. We want to share John's song "Power of Love" and Black Lives Matter. You can find this on YouTube, and we'll make sure that we leave some links in the description for you as well. So why don't you kick back, turn it up a little bit, and we'll be back in just a moment or so with more and John Stringer here on New Thought Today. Enjoy.
What if sharing Black Lives Matter was a way to say I love you to the slaves that built this country but would never think Black Lives Matter.
What if it were a way to say thank you to those that gave their lives?
To bring equality in human relationships, in civil rights, in education, and economic opportunity. Black Lives Matter.
What if simply acknowledging that Black Lives Matter was one way to show love?
To the Black ancestors and their descendants, the current generation.
And their descendants. The current generation. Black Lives Matter.
A way to say thank you.
A way to say thank you for being the glorious children of God that you are and have always been. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
What if there were a simple way to support and encourage the descendants of those who were dehumanized, oppressed, demonized, lynched, and murdered just for being black?
And murder.
Just for being
Just Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
What if it were a way to show unity?
Acknowledging that Black lives deserve the same care and respect as all
Care and
lives.
respect as all lives?
Black lives matter.
What if it were a simple way to shift the collective consciousness
Of the world by shining a light of love.
And value in something that has been systematically devalued, both consciously
and
and unconsciously,
Intentionally
and unintentionally.
Black Lives Matter.
What if it were a way to put ointment on a wound
that takes the collective love of humanity to heal? Black Lives Matter.
What if it was all of this and more, just by you choosing it to be?
In this moment, that's exactly what it means to me. Black lives matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Wow. Very true. Sorry, John, you were on mute.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was just saying I tear up when I watch that because it's been a minute. It always gets me.
Yeah, it's very moving because it's kind of syncopated and each presenter comes in and kind of does a double entendre, so to speak, there, and it's really moving in the fact that there's that reverb or that echo effect that Black Lives Matter, matter, so that it becomes embodied is what I got from that. And looking at how do we begin to use music, spoken word, and just open heart to connect and be able to, really deal with things that matter, right?
Right. That's it. Yeah. I love the that really came out when, or at least the words, the spoken word came out when the Black Lives Matter movement first came, and it was just a hashtag, not an organization. And the energy that came through was really to take it from a perspective of love, because it was controversial as soon as it came out, right? If you recall, there seemed polarizing in some circles where people were insisting all lives matter, Black versus Black Lives Matter, etc. And what came to me through meditation, I'll be honest, prior to that piece coming through, I was actually of the mind that, Black Lives Matter, yes. But would you believe I actually felt like when I shared, I wanted to say Black Lives Matter and all lives matter. That's how I felt. I was like, you know what? Let's try to keep it from being divisive and just say both. That was kind of my thinking, right? Then when this piece came through, I was like, it really showed just this beautiful energy of compassion. And after I got it, I would explain. So if my son hurt himself and got up and came crying, and I said, son, you're going to be okay. It's all right. You're going to be okay. And then my daughter came up and said, but Dad, we're all going to be okay. It's kind of like, yeah, but that's not really the point right now. There's some focused attention that needs to happen right here. And that's how I started seeing, after this piece came through, Black Lives Matter's opportunity to show love with focused attention for those who are crying out for attention, right? And so it can be I won't say insensitive, but it can be narrow to approach it from, but all lives matter. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not seeing that broader context. And I don't blame anybody for feeling that way, because I felt that way at first. I want to do both, but it really shifted for me. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, it really brings up for me, you're an artist. You've been an artist for a long time. You've been an artist long before hashtags, and you've lived from your side, if you that doesn't sound right, but you've lived from one perspective around music and activism and what is the daily struggle for a Black man in America. And I'm wondering, how did your music change during the pandemic era, through the Black Lives Matter is before pre-pandemic, but we really see it come on strong with George Floyd. Help us understand, how has your art changed?
Good question.
So
I think I was fortunate enough I went from rock back in the 90s through 2000s, doing a lot of rock. And then let's say around 2010, began to transition in my personal life. Through that time, I was really listening to my genius, I'll call it. I was use music to learn how to tune into. So for songwriting, that was my motive, to tap into this greater bandwidth of information and genius. Like I knew, in fact, my affirmation was, I am a musical genius, right? To try to break through writer's block. And I was fortunate enough to find practices that help open my awareness and tap into these other modalities and ways of receiving information. I like the music in the background, by the way. That genius often has. And so to answer your question, that led me to tuning in differently in how I brought the music through. And then during the pandemic, I just continued that practice. In fact, post-pandemic, when we could finally get together again, I was blessed to be able to hear this just receive vision. I'll just hear, okay, do this, right? Go this way. And I'll just follow that. And I got this inspiration to put a group together called the Rev Brz Project. And what we do is 5 writers have never written together. And I've shown them the method that I use to tune in and what we call it aligning with the source of genius, the source of inspiration, aligning with source, and then listening for the music, for the lyrics, whatever it needs to be, and let it come out. And what's come out is much different than what I was creating by myself, right? So there's so many ways to, just tap into that beauty. But I think what the pandemic did for me, it sent me on a more expansive journey of that inward exploration, to where I started finding new crevices, cracks, and blocks, and things to deal with. But I was on the couch for 6 months, in fact, because I had broken my ankle, had surgery, going through rehab. So pandemic, March, everything shuts down, 2020. And then broke my ankle in June. So I had a lot of time by myself and learning to transcend pain and really suffering, learning how to opt out of suffering so that I could be with pain without like making myself miserable. It's beautiful. Actually, I'm really grateful for that experience. But all of that shifted my receptivity and my awareness into tuning into what was seeking to come through as me with music too. So it's evolved some, thanks to the pandemic, and thanks to the guidance I'm getting as far as how to expand. And speaking of bring our souls, I'll be there doing a beautiful workshop with the youth there, teaching them the same method and how to listen and how to bring through this wonderful intelligence to co-create something without analyzing it. That's the fun part. And then when it's all together, you're like, this is brilliant. It's so genius, how it works. And then they see they have that ability, they have that power to do it. And not just them, but with others. It's amazing how it works every time. And then what we create, we're gonna sing Sunday. So they get to come up with everybody and present it. So it's just exciting, man. So yeah,
I look forward to that, to hearing that. And I love I love the idea and concept of tuning in, because one of my mainstays in terms of expression of how we tap into the divine is that we are basically radio tuners, individuals. And as we do different things in our lives, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, it fine tunes our signal that we pick up, and back in the analog days when you tried to go from one station to another, you were dealing with the knob, but now, it's just a great metaphor. Now that we're into the digital scene, all you need to do is put the number in and it comes in, whether it's on radio or TV or whatever. And so it's the same with us when we can meditate or contemplate or whatever it is that we need to do to pull a channel, to pull a frequency out of the airwaves and then translate it. And the key, I think, or one of the keys anyway, is what you said, is unedited translation. I mean, frequency, because oftentimes a lot of us are self-critical of something, our writing, our spelling, our bit, whatever. And when we sit there and try to finagle with that, we lose the pure frequency.
Yeah, I love you point that out, because that is one of the things we teach in the songwriting retreats we do, is help people see writer's block, which a lot of people come up with, is simply that you've gotten used to slamming the brakes. If you think of it like a car analogy, you've just gotten used to slamming the brakes and you got your foot on the brake. You don't realize how to let up, right? Because creativity will go. Once you figure out how to take the analytical or judgmental part off, and just let it go. But it does need to be strengthened, and it does need momentum, right? And so, just like you said, our self-criticism, our judgment, our unworthy thoughts and different things will stop us from just letting the creativity go. But when we were 5, we didn't care what nobody thought, right? Or 4, or whatever age you were when you didn't care, right? We just be making up a song and it didn't even rhyme. I love mama and she smells good. Hopefully she will take me home. You know, you didn't care. Right? It's like you just let the creativity go. And that's really what I've experienced that it takes to begin to tune in and listen and respond to that genius. And then there's something about whether you call it a soul's blueprint, whether you call it your inner being, whatever you want to call it, the subconscious, there's something that responds, creates something called a feedback loop, where as you make a response to your creativity, you actually begin to respond internally, and you're giving a signal to that creativity more of what you want. But you got to make the response. Right. Like singers, like songwriters like me know, okay, if they're serious about their craft and dedicated to the craft, I just got an idea. Let me get a recorder, make a response, right? Oh, that's a great line. Let me write it down. You know, if you don't make that response, it's like, oh, that's a great idea. Let me remember that 5 minutes later. What was that again? Gone. So making that response. So I say all that, I get excited about the songwriting part, but it's the same thing with our inspiration, with our intuition, with our alignment with what we're being called to do. A lot of times these little things come. That's how the universe speaks. That's how the I am speaks, and all these symbols and different flashes. And if we haven't practiced making a response, we just miss it. Oh, what was that again? Oh, I forgot. Okay, moving on. And it's steady trying to send you stuff. You just hadn't tuned in. You're not listening, you know? So cultivating a practice of listening and tuning in. It's what I found to be, it doesn't matter what genius application you're looking at, whether it's songwriting, writing a book, writing a talk, figuring out what you want to do with your life, why you're here, who you want to marry. It does not matter. It applies to all things, as that wonderful tradition says, in all your ways, acknowledge the I am, the source, the genius, and it will direct your path, right? So yeah, I love that.
And you know, a key there, I think, and it's a great reminder, and thank you for it, is we walk around with these amazing devices in our hand, our pocket, called a cell phone that you can talk to text, you can record yourself. And I'm trying to get into that mode now to do that and use that, because especially the recording piece, and now that they have some translations, it can, you know, you can just speak. You don't have to worry about anything, the spelling or the grammar or any of that. You can just speak into the microphone, as they say. And then after that channel has exhausted itself, now you can go back and look at it in its entirety, and you know, you can modify it various different ways, but you still got the original, because every time you go back to that original, the vibration may be different. And I think, you know, when we look at new thought, and what we're trying to do in the world, that is so key in that we have to become more disciplined to use the tools that the Creator has given us to exhibit that genius. Because one thing that's always said is that when we look at artists, right, there's a thing, when you look at artists, whether it's dance, music, spoken word, whatever it is, by them getting into that sweet spot, they're able to translate and deliver things that resonate with a lot of people. And they don't, and they're able to do that, and it touches them because they don't allow the blocks, or they've gotten over their blocks. And that's what we need. We need more people to be pure deliverers, and whatever frequency, whoever needs that frequency is there for them.
That's it. I love what you said too, because it reminds me of finding what works for you. Like there's a lot of tools out there. I have songwriting buddies, award-winning artists, who use practices and tools and methodologies that don't necessarily resonate with me. I find them difficult and more than I want to take on. But I found my genius. I found what my practice and what flows for me. So a lot of times I've heard it said, don't compare your process to somebody else's process. Don't compare your output to somebody else's output. Find what works for you and be that. Do you. And then whether it's new thought, whether it's music, whether it's, your role at work, when you're doing that and you're finding what works for you, I think it not only helps you resonate better, obviously, because it fits. It's like a shoe that fits. It's more comfortable. But then you're putting out a vibration that more people are attracted to because it's authentic. It's the truth coming through you at you, right? So that's how I feel with artists too. When they can find their voice, find what works for them, find that. Like I've been blessed to find what feels good to me. Whether people like it or not, that's not my control, but I feel good doing it. I feel good. And thankfully, people seem to resonate with it. But first and foremost, I'm opening up to do me, to present what is this genius seeking to create as me, uniquely through me. And man, it feels good when it comes through. You're like, oh yes, thank you. I'm having a moment, and then other people come and join in and have a moment. So that to me, if you can live life that way, oh, what a blessing,
Yeah.
You remind me of the phrase, other people's opinion is none of my business.
Bingo.
Other people's opinion of me is none of my, and to be able to live authentically in that way. And I've always, I have to say, I say this a lot, folks, right? I know I was a spiritual snob for a long time. I believed that there was one way and CSL was that way, and the Holmes Institute was that way. But I've also always had kind of this sense that, well, as artists never got locked into that one way. And specifically in New Thought, musical artists never seem to really get locked into there's just this one way. There's this little slice of pie over here, and I kind of like how maybe this church is a little more rock and roll and this church is a little more gospel, or this church is a little more instrumental and this church is a little more over the top. And one of our viewers is asking if you're a reverend, and we didn't speak about this before the lead in, but you have mentioned that you do have some ministerial training, and it sounds to me like you've taken classes and gotten your education, if you will, from a number of different avenues. And that's real important to us because we're all about getting rid of the false denominationalism in New Thought. Right. Tell us a little bit about your journey, of your spiritual journey and your education. And is Reverend in the works? Is that something that's coming in the future?
Great question.
About all that.
Great question. So I was blessed to, after finishing high school, went off to West Point Military Academy. Believe it or not, that's where I started learning meditation. In junior high school, I had been introduced to it at a workshop, but at West Point, they were teaching us performance enhancement, showing us what some Olympians would do, put you in the egg. This was the early 90s. And I'm breathing and learning how to bring my heart rate down, my body temperature down through my breath. So it's breath work, all these things. Then they taught journaling. They taught the Harvard studies of how the most successful people would journal. Then they taught, and these are officers training for the Army's officers, right? So they're teaching these things that are fundamental for success, even backwards planning, how to see the end in mind and work backwards in your planning. They even taught the Benjamin Franklin method, pros and cons. So I got all these tools in this education, came down to Morehouse in Atlanta and transferred. It was really my second choice, but I realized after being there, it was my first choice. I was not cut out for the Army, right? So got to Morehouse and spent life was teaching me. I had a breakthrough while I was there, which I ended up outside of the body in this amazing unconditional love and light that I thought was God. But then I realized as an adult looking back on it, if that was God, why was I looking at my own body, right? So I didn't understand what had happened, but it sent me on a path of breaking with my old traditional religion and trying to find answers. That was during college. And so just to answer your question about what my education was, it was life. So I end up seeking, getting involved in a very regimented practice of religion, studying the Bible, discipleship, became a disciple of Christ, teaching, sharing, praying, daily just very committed for a good 3-4 years, and realized I was not becoming what I thought that was going to bring me. And so took the 10-year gap, the decade leap year, walked away from religion altogether, joined a rock band, toured the world, left college and all that stuff. And I had some success as an independent artist, started my label, just had a great time actually. But by the time I settled down, got married, I was miserable with who I'd become. And that sent me in search of something that worked. I finally realized I tried a lot of things, nothing to work. And I just reached out to that source, that what I believed at the time, my idea of what that was, and said, you got to show me what works. I need something. I can't go on like this. And then one thing led to another. It came. And so my education became, I didn't want to go anywhere else. I wanted to go direct. After I started learning that was possible, and I had that belief as a child, but it never worked, right? I could never seem to break through. So I was just determined to figure out how to do it. Through meditation, all of a sudden it opened up for me. I had what they call a Kundalini awakening thing, and begin to actually bring through teachings. And it was all private for 3 years. My wife and I, no one knew I was doing this. I was still in the rock band actually. But no one knew I was doing this, not even my band. You know? We kept it very private because it sounded crazy. It's like, oh, you're talking to God now? Yeah, but let's not talk about that. So I'm getting all these teachings and I'm applying it to my life. It was like being taken through 12 steps, actually, what I was receiving. And I, had to go back, take responsibility for a lot of things I'd done that family members didn't know, and fess up, and end up, there's family that won't talk to me because of that, but that's what I was hearing to do. And I just surrendered and committed to it. And it was just a powerful, transformative lesson in life and in tuning in and following. So my wife and I, we've just continued to trust that. She's been a trooper, man, because for years she wasn't hearing, but she would just trust what I was hearing. That takes a lot of courage, right? And so we just lived our lives that way, end up going to corporate America, getting out of music, the rock scene, going to corporate America, director of marketing, best money I've ever made at that time. And, big corner office and all this stuff. And one day I hear, leave, resign today. I'm calling my wife, baby, you're not going to believe this. She's like, can you check again? Yes. Neither one of us wanted to take that leap, boy, but we did it. And that's what really led on this current path that brought us to Agape, Hillside, different new thought arenas that were matching what I had been receiving in the teachings we gotten for years. Started seeing them show up in all these different arenas, like New Thought, Science of Mind, etc. They were very in line and aligned with everything we were getting and applying to our lives. So we're like, oh, wow. And we started to see the language show up that matched, even like Course of Miracles, like a lot of what we tuned into, we're seeing the same language. I'm like, this is uncanny. It's like, but it showed that there is oneness to this. There's no separation. Like anybody can access what works, right? It might sound a little bit in language, but that was what we began to learn. So got guidance to go to ministry school, Barbara King School of Ministry for a year. And during that time is when I realized, my ministry is, I figured out, clarified my roles. My ministry is to be a life teacher, a healer, a singer, and a lover, right? To step out in love the world and do what I'm doing. That is my ministry. So my ordination through the breakthrough. So I hadn't heard that I need to go get anything else right now. You know what I'm saying? But if that changes, I will.
Amen.
And I can't think of any better way to start a conversation than, honey, I've been talking to God again. Here's what's coming through.
That's it, man. You know, it's funny. Nobody can, no one can judge or assess what you're doing when you connect in your experience. You can only tell somebody about it, but they got to have their own to understand. You know, it's like, it sounds, it's the kind of thing that sounds unbelievable to those who haven't realized they can do it too, you know, and haven't experienced it yet. It's like, yeah, right.
You bring to mind 2 points that I always loved. Is that the first one is success leaves clues.
Yes.
So if you see something that's or someone that's successful, there's some clues there that we can look at and follow, and get us moving in the right direction. And then ultimately we get to the point, no matter how much I tell you what a mango tastes like, you're never going to understand it until you bite into a mango.
Bingo.
And once you bite into the mango, I'll say mang and you'll say go, and we'll be on the same vibration, because now you have that connection. And that's what life's about, I think, is following the clues of success. And then once we see and find out what those are and the ones that work for us, go play, go have the experience.
And the success that I'm most attracted to now is those who have mastered the success of being in the moment and finding fulfillment in that moment with whatever is arising, what internally and external, whatever it is, finding that wonderful harmony and then being able to move forward from there, right? Like the people that I see do that, I feel like, yes, that's it. And that's what I'm cultivating, practicing more of, so that I don't get, like, I've done the rat race and the external chasing, whereas the external creating to me is different. Like when I have inspiration and fulfillment and I'm creating from there versus I'm chasing something to give me fulfillment, you know what I'm saying? To give me achievement, to give me this, you know, something that I feel I lack. That form of success for me has, may still like show up attractive, like a girl with very attractive, but maybe rotten breath, and you know, like it'll come along and turn me off, right? It looks good, but I know deep down something stinks about it, right? so I try to stay away from you know, chasing after something external that I think I don't have. And I love to see those who leave the clues of how do we find that fulfillment now? How do we find that fulfillment internally now, so we can bring that to everything we do? And if we master that, touchdown. That's how I feel anyway.
Exactly.
Or goal for the Avalanche.
Or goal for the Avalanche, exactly. Hey, folks, if you're wondering what you stumbled into here, this is New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. I'm Rev Robert Brzezinski, and my co-host, Reverend Elzia Sekou, and our special guest, John Stringer. We've been having a great conversation, so much so that we've totally spaced off doing our sponsor announcement. So we're going to take a quick minute, let everybody grab a sip of water, and let you learn a little bit more about some of the things we do around here and some of the people that support this mighty network. We're going to be back though with more, because we want to learn a whole lot more about John and what he's going to bring to Celebrating Our Soul conference in August. This is New Thought Today. We'll be right back. Stay with us. And we're back with more of New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network. Reverend Elzia, my co-host, and our special guest, John Stringer, here today. So grateful you both are here. John, we've been talking a whole lot about your music, and I think we're going to try to save some time to watch another video before we're done today. So give some thought to which one of those I should pull up off your YouTube page. But I know before we get there, Elzia's got a couple questions. We want to talk a little bit more about the Celebrating Our Soul conference.
Yes. So that event, as you know, from the video we just looked at, is coming up pretty soon. And I'm wondering from your perspective, what does it mean for you to be involved with the conference of this type that is being organized, promoted, managed by African Americans in New Thought, which is something new to my. I don't know of anything like this that has happened before. Looking at the keynote speakers and everything. So I'd love to get your insight on that first, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So when I was told about it, maybe 2 years ago or somewhere in there, I just tuned in and heard, is it mine to be a part of? And I heard, yes. I'm like, all right, I'm in. But what I've seen as it's come together is it's bringing a lot of the, almost like I'd say, who's who in New Thought leaders of African-American descent throughout the country coming together in a beautiful way. I think it just is just one of those reminders of something that needs to be seen in one sense. That is a reminder of the power of, you know how, I'll give you an example. You know how some people have the mindset that, something like Black History Month can be divisive versus uniting, right? And I get that perspective. Like, to let you know, my upbringing was very mixed, and I went to private Christian schools. So I've been around African American culture, white culture, different things. And then my DNA is also mixed, right? So I'm not just Black, right? I've got pretty much red, yellow, black, and white, you name it, even Asian. So it's a very interesting discovery, but I think that might have something to do with why I feel this way. But when you look at Black history, some may have the perspective that, okay, this could be divisive. Why are we focusing on a month for Black? Okay, we have this New Thought conference with people of African descent leading and creating. Why are we focusing? So you can see it from that perspective. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. The perspective I enjoy is seeing that, what we talked about before, that focused attention, that shining a light on something that has been devalued, something that has been, whether intentionally or unintentionally, something that has kind of been set apart, taking the time to shine the light on it, to show that this value is equally important and valuable. I feel like it's that sort of opportunity. And in doing so, I think what the opportunity becomes, you can dissolve this whole idea of the separation in the first place. Because what's really going to happen when these powerful speakers and this music comes on is you're going to see, wow, this is a humanity thing. This is something to empower all of us, to help us see the common challenge is the separation. And this is about oneness, about love, the things we know. So that's a long way to answer your question, but that's what the perspective I see it from is, I feel like it's a beautiful opportunity to do just that.
Yeah. And, you just brought back to me something that I wanted to say early on when you were talking about the split, if you will, between Black Lives Matters and All Lives Matters, right? Right. This event that's being put on by African American and people of African American descent throughout the diaspora, it gives someone an opportunity to see life through a different lens, because the focus is different, the experience is different. So it gives you another way of looking at New Thought, holistic living, however you want to define it. And it gives you a more well-rounded, a more 360 degrees perspective of life itself. And so I love that when we do this, because, you know, people will say, oh, well, no, or no one says, we got a whole lot of sun, but we don't have enough rain. But all elements matter. But if you don't get no water, you can have all the sun in the world, that plant's gonna die. So it's not that we focus on one to the exclusion of the other.
Bingo.
There is a balance. There is a mix, and that's what I hear you saying, and I'm excited about that.
I actually love what you brought up, because it actually shines a light on the other side. Like, I was more pointing to the fact that the opportunity to transcend, to see and experience and transcend the separation. However, you brought up a very important part. There is also the opportunity to celebrate the differences, to celebrate the unique expression, to celebrate the culture. That's the other side of this that you just helped me remember. Like, yes, and there's this. Together we could do all of that. And I think that's just a beautiful opportunity that, you know, not everybody gets a chance to experience. Like, hey, what is New Thought like from the South? What is New Thought like from this, you know, from this? What is New Thought music like coming from the African American community or whatever? I think there's some opportunities like that, like the queen of what I call the queen of New Thought soul. I'm sorry, go ahead, Rev Brz.
I can't possibly know what that is. I haven't lived that experience. And the experience both of you have had in coming to New Thought and learning New Thought and expressing New Thought. I have to have I have to have a way to understand your experience so that we can come to that recognition that we share the experience.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I'm reminded of Ernest Holmes' quote where he talks about religious sciences, the correlation of spirituality and science, but it ends with applied to the needs and aspirations of man. I don't know how you've been able to use New Thought to meet the needs and the aspirations of who you are, of your lived experience, of your community, of your upbringing, unless we get together and talk about it and share experience and be together in this. And then it works in both directions as well.
I love it. Principle. The funny thing is the principles are the same, right? I mean, you all will recognize this. Let me not assume. The underlying principle and cause of our suffering, our trauma, our history that doesn't serve us, etc., that underlying cause is the same. It just expresses uniquely. It culturally expresses uniquely in societies, right? And in the individual. When you think about it, just because I say, oh, I've had this experience in New Thought as an African or people of African descent doesn't mean my experience is the same as this brother's, right? Technically, it's all unique. And when you get down to it, it is exactly what you said, that appreciation, that creating the ability to hear one another, to be heard, to be seen, and to be appreciated and understood, right? And then moving forward from there to create what we're here to create, right? Together. So I love
Which is why I love the title, Celebrating Our Soul, because it gives
kind of got a double meaning, right?
Mosaic of soul, if you will. So that's cool. Like a stained glass or a good piece of music where you got good percussions and good instrumentalists and vocals, and it is that celebration that brings in all the various pieces to create this beautiful oneness.
Yeah.
That no matter where you are on the spectrum, you can move to it, you can groove to it, you can tap into it. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think we're in a unique position as New Thought practitioners, if you will, regardless of your background, to look at how other people do it, so I know how to act in certain situations. And so I'm so excited about the conference. that's coming up in August 11th through the 14th and at Unity Village. I can't wait to get there.
Yes, some of there's so many wonderful speakers there. The well-known ones like Michael Bernard Beckwith, nationally known, well, across the world. Some of the more emerging ones as well going to be there. And what's beautiful to me is I feel like there is those who have been recognized throughout the movement, a lot of the leaders of African descent there, as well as the emerging young leaders, if you will. Well, we won't say age. Age isn't the issue, but they are emerging now, right?
Yes.
And coming up. So it's such a good blend. I don't know how many people familiar with Reverend Galen McDowell, for example. Dr. Will Coleman. Dr. Will Coleman been around for a while, so he's awesome. From Atlanta, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Reverend Carolyn Douglas, Reverend Alberta Works. Just so many names, so many wonderful keynotes that are going to be presented. And what's exciting me is to hear from these different voices, many of whom I've been out there with at different centers and different events and getting to see and getting to meet. So in some cases, it feels like a nice little homecoming for the people of color to come and celebrate together, right? And invite everybody else, no matter what your descent is. So I love all of that energy.
Yeah, and I think I'm excited about the music as well, because the music is not only there to celebrate and uplift. There's a lot of it's a music that's going to be working with the youth.
Right. Yeah.
And given the landscape that we're in now, to hit a tony note that awakens our youth and young people to a different vibration, to a more uplifting vibration, to one that does not necessarily discount any other one, but it allows you to tune into yours, whatever that is. And that's what New Thought is about, as you were saying earlier. Yeah. How do we begin to find our own frequency? I love there's a Sufi story where Nasruddin is in this little small town, and they're having an annual concert, and everybody's going to practice, and they come to Nasruddin and says, are you no longer in the symphony? He said, oh yeah, I'm in the symphony. And they said, well, why aren't you going to practice? He says, well, I already know what my note is. I don't need to try to practice it. I just need to play it. So, that's what we need to do.
I love that. One last thing about the music, want to point out, we'll be going through themes like Renaissance, and forgive me, but I'm trying to find the word, civil rights movement. Thank you. The civil rights movement period, different periods, as well as up to now and then the future of New Thought. So the music will have these certain themes that will honor a lot of traditional songs that many of us know in the beginning, and then get into some new things. So I'm really excited about just hearing that whole mix of what celebrating our soul when it comes to this music is about.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, John, we're about running out of time, and I'm trolling your YouTube page here. So let's play out with another song. We'll wrap up and say thank you now. I hope you can come back and visit us again sometime.
My pleasure. Would love to. Thanks for the great conversation, gentlemen. Thanks for the honor of being here.
Every week I say this, I will not be able to attend the conference as I'm going to be at a different conference. And every week I'm just a little more jealous that I'm not going to be at this conference. But I'll be there the next time because I'm going to miss out on hearing your great music. But so thanks for being with us, folks. If you're watching, thanks for being with us. What song should we use to play out here, John?
A good one might be the lyric video, You Are Welcome Here. That'd be my guess.
Let me see if this is the one.
Email.
Oh, we're gonna have to hear. Sorry, folks, my good old Sound system wants to make sure you watch a commercial here. Nope,
hey, sponsors got to get paid right now.
Yeah, we're gonna let him. We're gonna let our sponsors get paid.
That's right.
Let's bring this up. I don't think this is the lyric video. I think that probably looks like an album.
You want me to send it to you real quick?
Is it on this page here?
Yeah, I don't know what that page is, to be honest with you, but this is it. I'm gonna send it to you.
Here it is. Hold on, I found it.
Okay, perfect.
Here it is, folks. We're gonna play out with this. We'll be back next week with more of New Thought Today. Until next time, peace and blessings.
There's a space in my heart. I find the truth. I find me. A truth beyond what you may see now. But when we are one, even more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself, where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to power, welcome to unity. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. See with your eyes, allow them to go. Embrace and let go. Trust alone. There's a people in love. When you follow your heart, together we be strong, and we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself, where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in now, slowly feel all that's around you, all that you feel, all that you know. Let it go. Welcome to love. Welcome to peace. Welcome to our community. Be who you are. Let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. When we unite, yeah. You are welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here.
Stop building websites the hard way. Bluehost has